Welcome to Lawyers Who Care, the video show podcast that highlights attorneys who go above and beyond for their clients. And on each episode, we'll meet a new lawyer and they will share stories of when they went above and beyond legal counsel for the benefit of their client. My name is Andrew Samalin. I'm the principal of Samalin Wealth, a nationally recognized wealth management firm for lawyers, law firms, and their clients. And let's applaud lawyers who care and let's learn from them. Today, my guest is Kevin Scudder. He specializes in collaborative law at the Seattle Collaborative Law Center in none other than Seattle, Washington. Welcome, Kevin.
Thanks for having me, Andrew.
Great, it's my pleasure. So, Kevin, tell us about how you came to the law.
Yeah, it's a family of origin story, Andrew, and I'll try to keep it brief, but I grew up in Omaha, Nebraska. I was the fourth of 6 kids. We were a family of very low means. My dad was the legal aid attorney for Omaha, Nebraska, and he and my mom raised us 6 kids, never really making more than 40 grand a year. We had a very social justice, access to justice family. We were if anyone remembers, we were the Eugene McCarthy campaign headquarters in '68 and the George McGovern campaign headquarters in 1972. Not to bring politics into it, but we had impeach Nixon mobiles and bumper stickers on our cars. And we were kind of an other in our community. We were very liberal and stood out for the fact that we were different. I also had long hair and we were also Jewish. So as I was growing up, I had these personal experiences of being ostracized by the kids I grew up with. And, even when I was a senior in high school, I was called a dirty Jew as a kind of a result of, my being an other in that community. And it was like a light went off in my head. So I went to Hampshire College out in Massachusetts, and I studied comparative religious studies. I wanted to understand how and why people used religion to create an other, to create meaning in their life. And so, I traveled the world, ended up in Seattle in 1984. And to be honest, Andrew, I tried really hard not to be a lawyer because I did not want to follow in my father's footsteps. And the thing is, I'm good at what I do. I ended up working in law firms as legal assistants and document clerks and quickly rose to the point of making decisions for associates that for legal assistants and associates that they were getting paid a lot more money for. So I ended up going to the University of Washington School of Law. Then I litigated family law cases for 21 years. And in doing so, I did a lot of damage to society, to families. I was in there, calling people bad parents, never really putting the interests and needs of society or the family at the forefront of my work. And it was also just contrary to the values that my parents, raised me with back in Omaha, Nebraska. In 2008, I came across collaborative practice, and I took my introductory collaborative training. And to be honest, Andrew, I had this visceral sense. It was an epiphany. And if you haven't had an epiphany recently, I really recommend it. They're really powerful experiences it's a paradigm shift of seeing the world in a different way and seeing the legal process in a different way. And when I took my collaborative training, I had this vision of a collaborative law center. I had a vision of laying down my sword and shield and taking a different approach to helping people through the divorce process. So it took me a couple years to lay down my sword and shield and get done with all my litigation cases. Since 2010, my entire legal practice has been focused on out-of-court, client-focused resolutions. So I no longer do contested hearings. I no longer do trials. And it's interesting because one of the things I noticed was my income went up 35% once I stopped litigating. Seattle Collaborative Law Center was that vision that I had in 2008, and it came into fruition a couple years ago. And with the amount of work that's coming in, I've brought on 2 associates who are also, I will say, peacemakers in their approach to the law. So that's my background, and we'll tell you how I got to where I am.
Great. I don't even know where to start on that. There's so many different threads we can go down. So I'm probably going to hit the pause button on that. But tell us a client story that rings true for you.
So this is fascinating work because as a litigator, my client consultations were focused on what assets do you have? You know, what kind of a parenting plan do you want? What's separate property? What's community property? And this is what you're entitled to under the law. In my current work, you know, as a collaborative professional, it's totally different. Andrew, if you were my client, you know, I would say, what is it that you're trying to achieve? You know, I need to understand how you see yourself post-divorce. And I would explain to you that when people get divorced, there's 3 different areas, you know, that we address in the divorce process. We call it the uncoupling, 3 areas of uncoupling. One is the emotional uncoupling. So in the collaborative work, we use a coach. There's a financial uncoupling. We'll use a financial neutral. Then there's the legal uncoupling, which is why the lawyers are there for. So one of the questions I get to ask is, you know, Andrew, what does a happy you look like? And not everyone can answer that question when they're coming to a lawyer to talk about divorce. But that's the start of these client consultations. So in one case, I was working with an older gentleman, second marriage. There was trauma in the second marriage because his stepson had become a quadriplegic as a result of a car accident, and it changed their life, their commitment to each other. Then the son died. And so the couple came into the collaborative process saying, we need to get divorced because, you know, we had this thing happen. We're not spiritually connected anymore. And so we started identifying what it is that they were trying to achieve. And we have team meetings, you know, 4, 5, 6-way meetings in our work, Andrew, and we write things up on the board. And with this couple, we had identified their high-end goals of what they were trying to achieve. And it was like, then a light came on for me, and it was like, okay, let's start over. And I wiped off the whiteboard, and I said, okay, I want to make sure that I understand that we, the professional team, understand what you're trying to achieve. And we went down the list. Legacy for the kids. I want my estate to go to my kid, not to the other kid, not to the other family. You know, I want both of us to be okay. And boy, you know, the attorneys looked at each other and said, there's no reason why you can't have this. And you actually don't have to get divorced to achieve what you're trying to achieve. So both parties started to cry because they loved each other, didn't want to get divorced. It was just the only thing they knew. So that couple was a couple that decided not to get divorced. We just shifted into an estate planning mode to achieve what they wanted to achieve. We created a status of property agreement. So, you know, that's the back end of the collaborative process when people come to us saying we're going to get divorced. We also use the collaborative approach when people are getting married, okay? Because we want to put ourselves out of business as divorce lawyers. We're not there. We don't want people to get divorced. So we will do collaborative prenuptial agreements where we're asking very similar questions. What are the expectations that you have of the other spouse? What are your expectations? What are your communication styles? What happens if you're going to have children? So we'll take a team approach to creating these premarital agreements. You know, and I was telling you, you know, before we came on about this one case that we had where the couple was so grateful that they sent us this wonderful picture of them during the marriage. It was a selfie at the bow of a boat out on the water, sharing their gratitude for what we had prepped them for going into their marriage. So the collaborative process is a, you know, open, honest, full disclosure, you know, sharing of needs and interests. That is just fascinating and really rewarding work.
That's wonderful. And that was a big shift for you in 2008? 2008, yes?
Yeah, yeah, and we talk about the paradigm shift. So that's when my paradigm shift happened, though the paradigm shift keeps working.
Yeah. And Kevin, so that people can get in touch with you, can you share your phone number twice?
Yeah, phone number here is 206-524-7828. Again, it's 206-524-7828. My email address is kevin@seattleclc.com, and that's the Seattle Collaborative Law Center in Seattle, Washington.
Got it. And they could go to other collaborative, the umbrella organization, find you there too, and things like that.
Yeah, if you just Google Seattle Collaborative Law Center,
Got it.
you will get to my website.
Wonderful. Well, Kevin, thanks so much. I just, again, this has been the Lawyers Who Care podcast. Today, my guest again was Kevin Scudder. He specializes, as we see, in collaborative law and makes a difference in people's lives. Again, my name is Andrew Samalin. Kevin, I'd like to thank you again for being our guest today, and we look forward to seeing everyone on our next Lawyers Who Care podcast. If you are an attorney and would like to participate or know anyone who would care to participate too, please feel free to reach out at info@samalinwealth.com. Again, that's info@samalinwealth.com. Kevin, thank you again for joining us today. You made a big difference.
Thank you, Andrew. You're doing good work.
Appreciate it.